Go ahead and begin your practice today just by putting your hands on your knees and doing a little seated cat-cow. Okay, so finding that sense of when we do cat-cow on all fours, or we do the starfishes on our back, it's a different orientation to gravity than when we're sitting. So just notice if it's a little bit more difficult to feel freedom in your spine when you are sitting down. All right, and then come to a settled place. Hopefully you're up on something like on a blanket or a block or a pillow or something. So find the support underneath your sit bones. Close your eyes and see if you can imagine your pelvis. Okay, so we can feel where the bones are touching. So those are your sit bones, or otherwise known as your ischial tuberosities. And this is the bottom part of your pelvis. So it's a little bony. So hopefully you have a little sensation there. And just notice what it feels like to rock a little bit forward, a little bit back, a little onto your left, a little onto your right, and see if you can find balance points so that you're steady between the two sides, between front and back. And then imagine the rest of your pelvis like a bowl, where you have this broad base underneath you that supports everything that's above your pelvis. There's a lot of weight above our pelvis. We have all of our organs. We have our skull and our brain, our spine, our upper body. So let's enjoy this broad base of support and see if you can center your upper body weight right in the centered place of your pelvis. Now, chances are your legs are crossed unless you're sitting in Virasana. So notice that too. This is your habit because, chances are you sat the way you always sit. So just notice the slight asymmetry because your legs are crossed. Take a deep breath into the pelvis. And let's feel the backside of the pelvis now. Can you notice the sacrum, the bottom of your vertebrae, and how the sacrum kind of nestles itself right in between the two broad, rounded plates of your pelvic bones? It's like a perfect little nook for our spine, our vertebrae, to rest upon the pelvis. So see if you can sense that in the way we are sitting, because it's different than when we feel it when we're lying down. Now also imagine the fortress, truly a fortress of ligaments that surround your pelvis, helping the bones, the joints stay in place. Very, very tough, fibrous ring that pulls together the pubic bone, the two sides of the pelvis coming together at the pubic symphysis. See if you can feel that. And then moving into the back of the sacrum and all the many ligaments that are surrounding your sacroiliac joints. Try to align the crown over the tail. Let's go a little broader in our viewpoint. Let's place the hands together at your heart. Come into the breath. Offer an intention for your practice. Let's release the hands and come onto our back. All right, so as you find your way, make sure that you have blocks and a strap nearby, okay, and blankets too. So, just make sure if you have yoga props that you have them out close by you. All right, let's just pause here for a moment with our feet flat on the ground. Relax your arms down at your sides or out to the sides, wherever your upper body finds most comfort. And then notice where you planted your feet. Do they feel symmetrical to each other? Do your feet feel like they're balanced? And then notice where you tend to lean in your feet. Are you an outer foot leaner or an inner foot leaner? And see if you can just have a little bit of weight coming down into the four corners of your feet, each foot. So that's not something that has to be, you don't have to push, we're not lifting up our pelvis or doing anything like that. We're just grounding the feet. And notice, so let go of the ground of your feet and notice the change in your pelvis. Press your feet a little bit and then release your feet a little bit. Just notice how connected our feet are to the actions of our pelvis. Okay, let's lengthen, stretch out arms overhead, feel a deep breath. Maybe the right side stretches longer than the left. And now allow your pelvis to rock. So lift your left hip up, drop your right hip down toward your foot, left hip toward your shoulder, and then switch. And just notice how you can kind of swing and seesaw your pelvis. It's very cool that we have the capacity to both be symmetrical and asymmetrical, and that we can kind of move back and forth between our hemispheres of our body. All right, and then bring the knees into the chest and rock a little bit. Just swing from side to side, let the back relax. Breathing well. All right, and then let's circle the knees. Okay, moving the circle in one direction 2 or 3 or 4 times. And then moving the circles in another direction. Notice your sacrum. So notice, it's different now that we're on the floor. You might have a different experience of your sacroiliac joints. All right, and then let's open up the knees and move them away from each other and bring the knees back toward each other. Just finding that sense of movement in the hip joints. This is a whole nother aspect of the pelvis that we haven't really explored yet, is how the femur bones come to play and dance with the pelvis. So, the pelvis is such a confluence. It's, where your upper body and your lower body come to join. So let's enjoy all the dynamic nature of our pelvis, all that it supports. All right, and then let's reach your legs and arms out wide, expand, wiggle your fingers and your toes. Exhale, knees into your chest, chin up, round your back a little bit. Let's do that twice more. Expand your body open. Exhale, draw your body in. One more time. All right, and then release your feet back down onto the ground. Let's grab a block and a strap. We're going to do this. Hopefully we'll have time to do this twice, in the beginning of our practice and at the end. So we're going to take the strap, as in a loop, and we want to have that loop around our thighs. Okay, so we're going to start with just the strap. We'll use the block in a moment. So have the block nearby, and we're going to start the strap tight. So we're going to put our feet together and our knees together and strap the strap around mid-thigh or so. Okay, now ground your feet. Okay. Feel the four corners of your feet again, like we just did before. We're going to take a deep breath in, and as we exhale, engage your core, keep your inner feet grounded, and pull your outer thighs against the strap. So you're trying to pull your legs apart, and then relax. And do this a handful of times. Exhaling to engage, inhaling to relax, which might feel counterintuitive. And if you do the opposite with the breath, it's really not a big deal. Just that the transverse abdominis, your deep abdominal muscle, tends to work in concert with the diaphragm. So on the exhale is a nice place to feel engagement of that TA. Now notice if you have differences between your left and right sides. Okay, now we're going to take the strap and we're going to loosen it. Okay, And we're going to, and you can do this starting wide and moving in, or you can start it moving in and moving out. I forgot to say that if you are having some challenges with your SI joint, it's really best is if you, so now we're gonna have our feet hip width apart. It's best if you only do this position and not the feet together and the feet wider version that we're gonna do all three. This middle ground of hip width apart is a really stable place if you're having some challenges with your SI joints. All right, so root your big toe mounds into the ground, the inner feet. So the inner heel, the big toe mounds. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, engage core, press the thighs into the strap. And release on the inhale. Engage on the exhale. Keep grounded through the inner feet. Release on the inhale and engage on the exhale. Notice your SI joints. See if you can feel the transverse abdominis support. You might even feel the pelvic floor activated, which is a good thing. We're looking for symmetry. And then when you're ready, you can relax that variation unless you're staying put there. So if you're ever short on time and you're just doing one, just do that middle hip width apart version. Then that you could just do that and that would be enough. But if you're having some SI joint, this is a great way to kind of reset the pelvis, especially if you've done some things that are like a little tweaky on your pelvis or back. You're not hurting, but you feel like you need some care. This is an excellent thing to do. So now our legs are wider than our hips, ground through the big toe mounds and the inner heels. We're going to pull into the straps. So we're trying to pull our legs apart. On the exhale, inhale to relax. All right, so notice the different muscle groups that have to engage depending on where our legs are in space. So when I do this wider, I still feel it across my SI joints for sure, but I start to feel a little bit more work in my outer hips when I do this in this position than I did when it was my feet were together. So just notice maybe you have that same experience, maybe something different. Just notice what your experience is. Notice if you're taking tension in your neck. See if you can stay inside your breath. Then pause for a moment, just relax, take your feet back to hip width apart, the strap will be loose. Breathe deeply. And then we're going to slide the strap off. Now we're going to work in the opposite direction. We're going to do 3 different positions with the block. We're going to start with the block wide, then we're going to go to the block at the middle width of the block, and then the narrowest width of the block. So if you are having SI joint problems, you only do the middle. Just like with the strap, you only do the hip width apart version, same with the block. But if you're okay, stick the block at its longest width between your legs. And, just find, I like the spot kind of in between, like just a few inches above my knees, but you just go where it's comfortable. All right, so our feet are wider than our hips now. Take a deep breath in. We're going to ground the outer feet now. And we're going to engage our core on the exhale and hug the block. And release. So move with your breath rhythm. We're exhaling, engage the core, ground the outer feet, and hug the block. Now see if you can notice. Sometimes, obviously, you're going to feel this in your pelvic floor and your core too, but see if you can feel what is happening in your sacroiliac joints. Okay, now we're going to move to the block this width apart, so middle width. So move your feet in a little bit. And like I said, this is the distance you want to dance around within if you're having some specific SI joints today. All right, so ground the feet. So our outer feet in particular. Engage your core on your exhale and hug the block. Release on your inhales. If you did this variation recently. I can't remember, I think it was Monday, where we did some work with, maybe it was last week, I don't know, but this is a great way to feel the pelvic floor and the impact of, noticing that the pelvic floor and the sacroiliac joints and the core have a relationship with each other. All right, and then the last version we're going to do is with the block super skinny. So skinny little side of the block between our thighs, move your feet in a little closer. And you can adjust where you want the block to be. Maybe you want to move it down a little lower on your thighs, anywhere that's comfortable for your body. Okay. So ground outer feet, take a deep breath in, exhale, keep those outer feet grounded, hug the block as you exhale, engage your core. Notice all the dynamic muscle groups. Maybe you feel your glutes or even your hamstrings kicking in a little bit. See if you can feel the dynamic nature of a lot of muscle groups coming together. Notice your neck does not have to do any of the work of your pelvis, but it might try because it's always willing to try, the neck is. So let's relax the neck and shoulders. Keep moving with your breath. And then let's remove the block out of there. Bring your knees to your chest and just let some of those muscles that just, worked pretty dynamically relax. Feel free to rock. Feel free to move in any way that is nice for your body. All right, let's stretch out to a star. Take a breath. Exhale, knees in. Pick up your head. And now roll over onto your side. And come up onto your hands and your knees. So as we start to move through some cat-cows, notice, we've done a fair amount to wake up the muscles around our pelvis. So let's feel into the anterior and posterior tilt of the pelvis and just let some of those muscle groups open that might have tensed a little bit. How is your breath? Feel into the width of the sit bones as you arch your back, lift your head, tail up, sit bones high and wide. And then exhale and drop the tailbone, sit bones come toward each other and down. And then move around any way your body wants to move. Maybe you want to do some circles in your pelvis. Maybe you want to do some circles in your shoulders. Maybe you'd rather wag your tail, whatever feels good. All right, take your right foot straight back behind you. And then we're gonna cross that right foot over to the left, turn and look out over your foot. So an asymmetrical pose now, feel the hip open, breathing well. And then come back to center and change sides. Left foot stretches back, stretch out through your heel, open up the calf and cross that foot over. We're going to turn and look at your foot on the side of your mat. Breathe into the side of your waist, your outer hip. And then exhale and relax. Stretch back towards child's pose and let your whole pelvis soften. You feel free to be a little rocking if you want to be. Feel free to be still. Imagine someone's hand on the top of your sacrum, kind of pushing toward your tailbone. All right, and then we're going to come back up onto all fours and find our way to dog pose. All right, extend through the spine. Feel into the beauty of this posture. Feel free to move around. You can pedal a foot. You can bend a knee. You can lift a hip. Don't worry about your side joints going offline. Just allow yourself to be free in whatever movement potential is available to you. All right, now bend your knees and take your feet just a teeny bit further apart. Bend your knees a fair amount. Push off the four corners of your hands and lengthen. Breathing well. All right, and then walk your feet forward and come into Uttanasana. Bend your knees as much as your body needs to. Let your hamstrings, your glutes start to stretch open. Bobble your head around, let it be easy. Inhale for a halfway lift. The spine gets longer. Stretch your thighs back, back of the knees, open up a bit, spread your toes. Exhale and melt again. Drop your seat, lift your chest, rise all the way up. Bringing the arms to the sky, maybe opening up, maybe a big cactus arm, maybe just arms up or out, whatever feels nice. Lift your heart to the day. And then relax, shake out your hands. Breathing well. All right. We're gonna just do some, high kicks a little bit. So with the knees bent. Okay, so like you're marching just a little bit. And just notice your core. See if you can stay steady in your core as you do this. Breathing well. Feel free to put your arms wherever you want. If they're a little bit happier out to the side, you can do that. Starting to wake up some of the natural movement of our pelvis. I mean, it's not too natural. We don't walk with our knees high kicking like this, but just getting our hip flexors to engage. All right, and then put your feet down and bounce. And see if you can feel, be very gentle if you need to. See if you can feel the rebound of the earth traveling all the way up through your spine. Passing through your sacrum, passing through your pelvis. If you have a little mini trampoline, so good if you can bounce a little bit. So good for your length, but also just really good for all the joints in your body to get a little bit of vibration. All right, let's pause in Tadasana. Find your breath in. Long exhale. Rise up, arms to the sky. Take a deep breath again. Exhale, bend your knees and float forward. Relax your head. Halfway lift. Spine is growing. Exhale. Melt back down. Step your left foot back, your right foot comes forward. So when we start to do some asymmetrical things, let's enjoy what our body is capable of. Look at what you can do, where your femur bones can go in such opposite directions. See if you can feel across your sit bones, widen them again. Stabilize through your core. Lift your back thigh, inner thigh a little higher. Find the breath. Let's start to move when you're ready. Straightening the front leg, maybe even lifting the toes off the floor. You decide how you're best served in this pose. How's the breath? Round your legs. Come on up. Before you lift your arms in the air, come up to just feel your torso and feel it above your pelvis. See if you can bend the back knee a smidge so you can feel that your pelvis is really neutral. You don't have to tuck your tailbone under, but feel that you're not arching your low back. You're in a nice neutral spine. And then see if you can maintain that neutral spine as you lift your arms up. See if you can maintain that neutral spine as you straighten the back leg a little bit more. Where is this stabilization coming from? Use your core, use your pelvic floor. Ground through the front foot. All right, and then release the hands. Back foot comes forward. Fold into symmetry and relax. Halfway lift, spine gets longer again. Exhale and melt back down. Step right foot back, our left foot is coming into a lunge now. Feeling into that asymmetry in the pelvis. Enjoy what we're capable of, that we can do the splits, that we have this capacity to really stretch our stride long. All right, let's go ahead and lengthen through the hamstrings, straighten your leg a bit, and then bend your knee and open your chest. Back and forth with your breath. All right, ground yourself, feel the roots. And when you rise up, keep your hands down for this first little bit so that we can sense into the pelvis. See if you can notice when you bend the back knee a little bit and feel that nice, neutral, stable pelvis. Come into your front knee bend, so that, allow yourself to lunge, and then see what it feels like to stay in that stable place as you lift your arms up. So the core has to work here. Press your front heel into the ground so your glutes work a little bit more. And then start to straighten that back leg. Notice the feedback into your low back. Can you stay stable? Breathing well. Open yourself up. All right, release the hands down, back to dog pose. Extending through the spine. It's so nice. Dog pose is good because after asymmetrical standing poses, it's nice to find symmetry. It's nice to find an inversion. All right, let's come down onto our knees for a moment. Grab your one block that you have. We have two hopefully, but for this one, this width apart. So the whole length apart. We're going to put that between our shins, and you can kind of figure out, you can put it between your ankles, you can put it wherever is comfortable for you. And just be on all fours. Now, just like what we did earlier when we were on the ground, we could feel the pelvic floor kind of kick into gear. So we're going to have this action between our shins as we move through some cat-cows. Arching the back, and then as you round, feel the block hug a little bit more. All right, we're gonna keep the block there. And so, I have it between right above my ankles, but you go where it's gonna stay for you. We're gonna come into dog pose with the block between our shins. All right, extend through your spine here, big breaths. All right, and then back down onto our knees. Keep your right hand on the ground and lift the left arm out in the air. So feel into the pelvic floor, hugging the block. Find your breath. And then place that hand down onto the ground, second side. Lift the arm up. So now the asymmetry is in our upper body, but can you feel it translate all the way down to your feet? Breathing well. Go ahead and find your way back to dog pose again, lifting the sit bones high, stretch the hamstrings and the glutes. And now with the block there, come forward into a plank. Holding yourself steady, integrate, find the breath. Now, you've all done a block between your thighs before in this pose, so just notice, do you have, the further away from the pelvis, the less feedback you sometimes get into the pelvis, so just notice. All right, and then we're gonna come back to child's pose. Keep the block and see if you can kind of move the block so you can sit on it as you come back to child's pose. Okay. Now, if it's comfortable, sit on up on the block in Virasana. If you need more height than this, then you can get another block or whatever you need to sit. All right, so just feel a different position of seated than when we were sitting cross-legged earlier. And feel into the symmetry. Find your breath. Lift your arms up overhead. See if you can get weight to drop straight down into the pelvis. How is this different than when you're sitting cross-legged? And bring the hands down to the heart, palms together. Find your breath. All right, come off of that block, put it off to the side and come down onto your belly. Take a deep breath, cobra pose, open chest, exhale, and melt back down. One more time. Exhale, and melt back down. Curl the toes under, lift your quads up off the ground, legs are wider. Inhale, lift your legs. Chest can come up a little bit, but lift your legs. Lots of work. Hug the sacrum. This is a very good thing to stabilize your sacrum. If it's loose, if your SI joints are a little loose, exhale and melt. Come up onto all fours. Remove the feeling of the back bend. So see if you can swish and sway and move your spine in any way that's going to nourish and soften your back. Curl the toes under and lift to dog pose. Imagine you have a block between your thighs, or maybe stick a block between your thighs. Deep breaths here. And then walk your feet forward and come into Uttanasana. Find your breath, relax. Halfway lift, spine gets longer. Exhale and melt and fold. Push off your feet, rise up, bring the arms to the sky, and then down. Standing in Tadasana for a moment. Rock your weight into your heels, rock your weight into your toes. See if you can balance through the four corners of your feet. Soften your knees. Try to feel that your upper body is right on top of your pelvis. So notice where your tendencies are in your posture. Do you tend to spill, especially from the side? Do you tend to spill your pelvis forward? Do you tend to tuck your pelvis under? Do you tend to kind of lean into one side? You know, where are your patterns? Many of us push our pelvis, even if we don't tip the bowl of our pelvis forward like this, a lot of us push our pelvis forward to just kind of like hang out in that. So just notice where you lose the alignment of crown over tail. And let's see if we can find it. Okay, so a little bit of core engagement. Your pelvis is turned on right now, hopefully. So let's feel into the soles of the feet and let it travel upward through your body and then back down again. So find the alignment of your crown over your pelvis, a little bit of core. You don't have to snug up your glutes too much, but you might have them turned on just a smidge. Sometimes when we press our feet into the ground a little bit, it helps our glutes from being totally quiet. Notice where you have to adjust. Do you need to lift your pubic bone a little bit more? Do you need to lean into one foot a little bit more? Just find what you need to seek that alignment. Once you have it, breathe. Let your breath touch your whole pelvis. All right, let's take our legs wide on the mat. Okay. All right, standing star first. Just feel the reach in the body. Open yourself up. And we're going to turn our feet out and start to just slowly come down. So your goddess pose might be up here. It doesn't matter how deep you go. Think, obviously protect your knees, but we're trying to just move our pelvis into the grounding of the earth. So imagine like you have a tether from the pelvis to the earth. Feel the spine rise. See if you can stack still, just like when we were in Tadasana. Can you stack your spine over your pelvis instead of leaning forward? So you might, to do that, you might have to narrow your stance. You might have to, come a little higher, maybe a little deeper. Now feel your feet ground into them. Lift your arms up overhead. Spin two jarlets, so toes turn out, heels kind of try to turn forward toward the front of you, like we're in front of you, and feel the work of the hips, stabilizing your SI joints. And then stand up straight. And we're going to go back and forth between one side and the other. So when you do this, we've done this lots. Feel free to do whatever you want with your upper body. But what I want you to think about is you don't have to go super deep. You can lean forward, but for today, see what this might feel like, keeping your body a little bit more upright than some of the times when we've kind of swooped the torso forward and really getting into the deep lunge of our hip joints. So let's just see if we can find a little bit of seaweed action where we're able to move from left to right, but we're still stacking the body up. Slow or fast. You can twist a little bit if that feels good in your body. And then we're going to pause in a goddess. Lift your arms up. Find your breath. Cactus, open your arms. Breathing deeply. And then stand up straight for a standing star and lean forward. Hands can be on blocks. Thighs are straight now. Knees are straight. Any distance to the floor that's comfortable for your body, so you can have your hands all the way down. Toes are pointing straight, maybe even in a teeny bit if you get cramps in your hips. Sometimes turning your feet in can help. Thigh bones, root of the thigh bones, moving back. Enjoy the width of your pelvis, the width of your legs. All right, we're going to heel toe our feet in. Finding the breath, folding in half, and then rising on up. Now when we come into triangle pose, notice this is a very asymmetrical pose in the pelvis. So let's try to feel into how deep is okay for our sacrum today. All right, so as you come into the posture, see what you can feel in the backside of your pelvis. Can you notice the changing shape of your sacrum, well, your sacroiliac joints and how they are in place? Root into the feet. Lengthen through your spine. Sometimes less is more. So coming up higher might be a little easier on your sacroiliac joints. Find the breath. Now from here, we're going to bend your knee. Keep your hand on the block that you had it on, or you can put your elbow on your knee, your choice, and stretch your arm overhead. Round into the feet. So notice all the work we've done to awaken the pelvis. Is it here for you now? Do you feel like you have some stability in this pose? So ground the feet into the earth, push off the feet, lengthen through the spine. Can you engage the pelvic floor? Okay. All right, let's come on up. Standing star. You can keep your arms down too or lift them up. Notice what the sacrum is feeling. So everybody bring your hands down and put them on your sacrum for a moment. And just notice what those asymmetrical poses do for you. Okay. Turn your feet to the other side, triangle pose. Now, if you know you have a little tweaky in your back or your SI joint, higher might be better. So your triangle pose might be right here instead of going deeper. Okay. So find your pathway. Open up through your spine. Shoulders away from the ears. Stay grounded and rooted. Try to feel into what your SI joints feel like in this pose. Everybody's a little different. For some people, this is a boon. It's a really helpful pose. For other people, this is a pose that just really messes with their SI joints. So just notice for you how it makes you feel. Okay, we're going to keep that hand on a block, or you can put your elbow on your knee, your choice. Come into Uttanasana. Open your body up. Press your feet into the ground. Hug them toward each other. Try to find the lights in the pelvic floor. Turn them on. Plug your knee deep into the hip joint. Find that stabilization. Find the floor. Ground into it with both feet. Okay, and then come back up. And one more time, come to the neutral pose. Bring your hands down. Maybe you might, if you have a piece of furniture, you can also do this with furniture where your hands are higher. So you can decide whether you want to be low with hands on ground, hands on blocks, whatever feels best to your body. Breathing well. All right, let's heel toe our feet in. Okay. Come into Uttanasana, bend the knees a fair amount. And just check in with the backside of your pelvis. Come up to stand. We're going to put a block between our shins again. Okay, so we're a little wider than hip width apart for this pose. You can always do less wide and just stick a block between your thighs if that's more comfortable for the angles of your pelvis. Okay, find your breath, and we're going to come to chair pose. All right, so notice, we've done this a lot with the block between our thighs, but when we have the block a little lower, we have to kind of light up a little bit more to find the pelvis. Bring the arms overhead when you're ready, or not. Maybe your hands stay at your sides the whole time. Breathing well. And then stand up. And we're going to take the block, and now we're going to put it between our thighs. Take a deep breath in. One more chair pose, but first come up onto your toes. Reach into the spine. And then as you're ready, squat, bending the knees. Arms can stay overhead, but perhaps for today you want them in a different position. See if you can feel the neutral low back. So we're not overarching, and we're not rounding. We're just trying to find a neutral spine. Okay. Hug the block, turn the pelvic floor on. All right, stand up straight, and let's fold forward, step back to dog pose. So you might need to turn on your mat if you're still facing the side. All right, let's breathe deeply here. Maybe you want to experiment and take your feet wider. Turn your toes in. All right, let's come forward into a plank. You can be in that wide-legged plank if you want. Find your breath. Stabilize through your core. And then we're going to come down and rest in child's pose. Put your knees together if it's comfortable to do so. And just feel into the back, the low back. See if you can travel sensation from your lumbar spine all the way through your sacrum. Let your breath come into these places. All right, let's go ahead and find our way onto our back. Okay, so lie down for just a moment. Breathing well. Pick up your knees and bring them to the chest. All right, so very gentle, some core work here, just very gentle. We're not going to go extreme today in any way. Hands can be down at your sides, out to the sides, wherever you're comfortable. Keep your knees toward your chest, and we're going to slowly drop one heel, so right heel coming down to the ground, knee stays bent, and then lifting it back up. Now, when you do this, switch sides, we're just going to go slowly back and forth. When you do this, try to notice the beauty of the movement of your sacrum, that you are not stuck in one place, that your sacrum doesn't have to have a block for stability, that it doesn't have to always be symmetrical, that you have this capacity to move your pelvis in different asymmetrical directions, and that's good for you. So what helps you here? Feel your hip flexors, feel your core, feel what's supporting your ability to keep your sacroiliac joints mobile and free and stable all at the same time. Remember, your neck doesn't have to do the work. Breathing well. If you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, Just bring your foot a little further away from your pelvis as you stretch it down to the ground. Stay inside your breath. All right, now see if you can just stretch, and you can use your arm for this if you need to. We're going to stretch left leg, right knee comes in, and then switch left knee, stretch right leg, and feel free to use your hand. We're all going to use our hand in just one moment. So if you want to do a couple of rounds with no hand, go for it. And then eventually, next time your right knee is into your chest, we're just going to hug it in and stretch your left leg on the floor and relax. Breathe into the back of your body. Okay, change sides, left knee in, right leg long. Deep breaths. All right, 2 legs long on the floor. Just relax for a moment. Feel if you feel symmetrical, if your pelvis feels evenly weighted in your left and your right. See if your pelvis feels even and it's hiking up toward your shoulders. Do they feel the same equidistance from hips to shoulders on the left and right sides? Do you feel even weight of the sacrum on the floor, on your left and right sides? So just start to get to know the shape of your pelvis, the movements that it likes. Many of us have a kind of a torsion where one side of our pelvis is rolled forward than the other. So hopefully after some of the work, I hope you're feeling somewhat symmetrical. All right, we're going to do bridge pose twice, once active, once passive. Block between thighs. You can put it right between your knees or your thighs, whichever feels best to you. Ground your feet. Inhale and lift up. Big open chest, get onto the tops of your shoulders. Round 4 corners of feet now. So no longer just the inner feet, but outer feet too. Find your breath. Lower the pelvis down onto the ground. And you're going to choose your height, and we're going to do a supported variation of bridge pose. Higher is not better. Any height that feels good to your body is what's good. All right, so deep breaths in, deep breaths away. Let's bring the knees into the chest. A little bit of traction now for your sacrum. Find the breath. Feet down onto the ground. Lift the hips, get the block out of there, and just find neutral for a moment. Breathing well. And lift the hips up, scooch them over to the right. Knees come up and drop them over to the left. Take a deep breath into the chest. Enjoy that your body can move in so many different ways, that we are not stuck. Even our SI joints, which are very stable joints, have a little play within them. They can, have a little bit of movement. They're not totally stuck. Lift the knees. We're going to scoot our hips over to the left, bring your knees up and drop them over to the right. Enjoy your breath. Knees come back up, find neutral one more time. Pause here for a moment. Grab the strap. We're going to just do the middle distance of this, not the two sides. So have the feet hip width apart. Strap at mid-thigh. Snug up against your thighs where your feet are hip width apart. Take a deep breath in, ground your inner feet, engage your core. Exhale, press into the strap. Inhale to release. Exhale, ground inner feet, engage core. Press into the strap. Couple more times. Inhale, release. Exhale, ground inner feet, engage core, press in to the strap. Once more. Ground inner feet, engage your core. Exhale and press into the strap. Okay, come back. Grab a block. Put it between your thighs so your feet are hip width apart wherever that block is. So it can be near knees, hips, either the middle width or the little skinny width, whatever is feels hip width apart to you. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, ground outer feet, hug core, find the block, hug to the block. And just do it a few times. Release on the inhale. On the exhale, ground the outer feet, engage your core, and hug the block. All right, now, when you're ready to be done, bring your knees into your chest, maybe rock, maybe happy baby pose, maybe a moment of Supta Baddha Konasana, maybe just spread your legs out on the floor, maybe more twisting, maybe a little hip stretch. So anything that your body is saying, oh, I need to do this before Shavasana, if there's anything calling to you inside your body, maybe another bridge pose supported. So just find whatever it is that your body's like, oh yeah, that would feel good. And whatever you're finding, take some breaths there. And as you're ready there's no rush, but as you're ready to transition to Shavasana, decide today, do you think you'd feel better lying flat, or do you think you'd feel better with a little support underneath you? If you don't have a bolster or good, props, you can always put the two blocks long ways against each other with a blanket on top. And that's a nice support underneath your knees or shins or thighs. If you feel like that would be helpful, you might feel like putting your legs up on a couch or a chair might be very nourishing to your sacrum right now. So just find, or maybe laying flat is better for you. So it doesn't matter what you're choosing, just follow the intuition of your body. Always listen and trust what your body is saying. The more we pay attention, the more we understand the signals that our body tells us. So let yourself rest. Come into that nurturing place of Shavasana. It's so important to not skip this pose if you can. So get warm, get dark if you want, something over your eyes, get super comfortable, and then experience the quality of rest. So see what it feels like to drop your bones. And even though, we went fairly slowly in our practice today, and this is deep work that we did, even if you were like, oh, we didn't do all that much hard work, or your perception is that your pelvis did a lot of hard work today. So let's deeply relax through your pelvis. Melt all your bones in your pelvis. Let your breath travel through your body. If your neck and shoulders always want to share in the work, let them soften. Erase all the lines of expression across your face, just blank slate. Every time you exhale, melt your bones a little more, like sand that's been stirred up in a jar of water, and you put the jar down and the sand settles to the bottom. Let's begin to deepen our breathing. And the beauty of being online is if you don't want to end Shavasana, just stay right where you are. If you're ready to transition, let's begin to breathe a little more fully and deeply. One more moment of letting your whole weight drop down. And experiencing any movement that helps you come into a space where you can transition. So eventually, let your movements take you onto your side. Find your way up to sit as you're ready. As you come to sit, hands come together at the heart. Stack your spine, open your heart. Take a deep breath. Offer your practice, share your energy. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.